Good.
So it's my pleasure to welcome everyone to today's webinar. A big thank you to everyone registering and attending. We know how busy people are, so we're working hard to keep these events interesting and on target. We do encourage questions, so please use the question and chat tools in your webinar console. I'll be monitoring and collecting them for a question and answer discussion afterwards. One important housekeeping item: if you're dialing in on your phone, please mute your microphone on your computer. We had some background noise a couple times, and we think this was what caused it. A little bit about our speaker today. Many of you have heard this, but for some of you it'll be new. Min Bassiter began developing his insights about creative thinking and problem solving at Procter & Gamble more than 30 years ago. While at P&G, he received 3 U.S. patents and created a corporate-wide internal consulting practice. Following his award-winning doctoral research at the University of Cincinnati, Min became a professor of management in the Michael G. DeGroote School of Business at McMaster University. He continues to teach an executive education program for Aalto University and teaches a course on innovative and creative problem solving at the Conference Board of Canada's Directors College. Min's first book, The Power of Innovation, became an instant CEO need to read. He founded Bassiter Applied Creativity in 1981 and has since traveled the world applying and teaching complexity thinking to many of the world's Fortune 500 companies. Now I'm going to turn it over to Min. He'll share some stories and talk about a new term we've coined, battlenecks, as well as traditional bottlenecks and how they are different. Overcoming the battlenecks and bottlenecks requires a great deal of creativity and is often essential to get a good idea and action plan implemented. We refer to this step as gaining acceptance, or step 7 of the complexity thinking process. Now, over to you, Min.
Thanks, Bob, and a big welcome to everybody who's so interested in what we're doing, coming back again and again, and some new people coming in. So we hope that we can contribute to both sets of people. So today we've worked our way around the so-called wheel, the innovation wheel, and now we're talking about what happens when you're really trying to get an idea implemented really well. And the takeaways today are to understand what bottlenecks are, battlenecks are, and we also have bottlenecks masquerading as battlenecks. Now, the name of the game really is implementation. If you've got a great idea, it really doesn't matter unless you can get it done. So one definition of creativity we like is implemented change. If there's a good change implemented, there's been creativity. Let's take get some key takeaways. How do you get people on board? What is a roadblock session? How does it work? And how about some real life stories from the field that really contribute to our learning and contribute to our understanding about what to do. So, okay, now by review, remember we're looking at an innovation process. We call it complexity thinking. It's got 4 stages and 8 steps. And the first, and you know that you can get your profile figured out and understood as to which ones of these you might prefer. Now, generating is getting things started, discovering new problems and challenges, gathering information, facts to clarify, and then conceptualizing, understanding and defining what this new thing is, this new problem, this new opportunity, and getting some fledgling ideas that just might work. Optimizing is where we get very practical, evaluate, select the best, develop the best solutions, and make a plan for implementation. Where we are now is we've moved now into the 4th quadrant, where the name of the game is to gain acceptance for the idea with the people that count, the people who can make it work, and then finally, 8th step is action. Action is not something that occurs after, it occurs as part of the process. Now, all of us have preferences, and these were how we identified the 4 quadrants. And of course, as you remember, you're going to be a blend of all these 4, but there's some you like better than others. So the generator is the new problems and challenges person. Lots of options, don't mind ambiguity. Conceptualizers, they don't want to move ahead until we really understand what the problem is. It's the Einstein quote where if I had an hour to save the world, I spent 55 minutes defining the problem. So they want to understand, and they don't want us to get trapped into running ahead and doing something that is not going to work, but we were just eager to go. Optimizers, very, very practical. They want to find the critical few factors. They evaluate, and they don't like a lot of ambiguity. They want to get to a very good solution. Implementers, action and results is what counts. They don't have to understand to get going, but they're willing to adapt and make things work somehow. Apathy bothers them, and they'll bring people on board, but if they have to, they'll do it themselves. So that's the blend that we've got of these styles. Now, just to be sure, let's try this one for fun. Now, if you're by yourself, okay. If you're with somebody else, maybe talk about it. You and your team, you've got a great new idea. It's really a great idea to improve things. But there's a number of key people who are involved whose work is going to be negatively impacted if the idea is implemented, and they're resisting the change. They see it their own way as opposed to the organizational complete way. They start saying, why should we, every time the new idea is brought up? And the team now is starting to feel a bit beleaguered, and maybe that idea wasn't as good as we thought. You've got a team meeting coming up, and the question is, which of the 4 quadrants, which of the 4 states do you need your team to be at your next meeting? And you might take a minute or two to talk to each other and make a decision. Now, if I were to ask you, and we were all in the room together, which one do you think? We might get a variety of opinions. One that comes out sometimes is that maybe we should be having this team in the 3rd quadrant, optimization. And you'd ask why. They say, well, maybe the idea isn't that good after all. Well, another answer is, no, this is quadrant 4. This is implementation. And this is the one that we have in mind. It's implementation. This idea is a great idea. The fact that we're having trouble implementing it means that we just got to get awfully good at implementing. Implementing is a very difficult job when you're implementing new things. Not so much routine things, but new things. And we have to get very creative about how to implement. And we don't want to use if I could call it a cop-out, where, oh, well, it's kind of tough and maybe we should go back and examine the idea some more. That is not going to do it, because we're going to spend more and more time in a quadrant that is really already told us we got a great idea. Now, what we have to do maybe we could reshape the idea, work it over in quadrant 4, and find ways around it, the resistance, and make everybody feel, yeah, we're going to go with it. So this is the state we're talking about. It's implementation, and it's hard work, but it requires great creativity. Now, this brings up the equation. The way we look at creativity is that you've got to have knowledge. We got to know what we're working with. We have to have our imagination working. The imagination, which is what operates on the knowledge to create new ways of looking at the problem, new ideas, shuffling the cards, if you like, and getting that knowledge into new blends, which we call ideas, problem definitions, etc. Now, 55 ideas is not going to help you much unless you have good judging ability, the ability to evaluate wisely and choose the best 1 or 2 that we're going to be needing. And then, of course, nothing is going to happen unless that we take action. The action is putting the ball through the goal line and getting it done. And, of course, with our wheel being round, it doesn't mean that you had to be perfect. When we take action, we start looking at going around the wheel again. Can we make it better? How did we do it? And we never stop going around and around in our creative problem-solving process wheel. Now, the name of the game is getting something done. We generate, we conceptualize, we define, we turn abstract ideas into practical solutions and plans, and then we get it done. And if we're doing this continually, we're going to be a very adaptable organization and a leader in the 21st century. But we have to keep it going and not get diverted from giving plenty of time to getting new things done. Now, we have about 30,000 people now. Many of you have contributed to this, if not all. And this is what our population looks like all over the world. And as you can see, the dominant quadrant is implementer, 44%, and the smallest is generation. And this is just the way we are. And you can say, gee whiz, we have so many people in the implementation stage. It's interesting that with that being true, and you could talk about why, or the way we're brought up, the kinds of things we do, but it's there. And why would implementation be so difficult if we have so many people there? Why? Why do so many ideas not make it? So many ideas fail, if we have so many people who are implementation minded? Well, we run into things. New ideas meet things called bottlenecks, and bottlenecks masquerading as battlenecks. So let's open up the Pandora's box here and see what these things mean. Bottlenecks are things that concern people. People-centered obstructions blocking our change efforts for good ideas. People, groups, departments dig in their heels, and they like to protect their own status quo. They want to make their own objectives. They want to keep their jobs the way they like them. And the good ideas have to go through them in order to be implemented. So if you have a series of departments to go, they're all working up and down trying to do their jobs well. Sales, manufacturing, in the hospital, physicians. But if the new idea really is going to require to go through all of them to be able to work from one end to the other. And they can influence decisions regarding your good ideas if they're negative toward them, and if they refuse to cooperate, etc. Now, it can be very demotivating, and you can all run into the situation because it was such a great idea, I can't believe that it was shot down by Nico. Now, this requires time and energy planning, and we have to work real hard to defeat resistance efforts. When I was a young engineer working at Procter & Gamble, I discovered something I never understood, didn't think of it before, is that some people are very vertically minded, and they tend to think in terms of how do I do my job well? How do I reach our objectives in my silo, whatever it might be? And some people like to do that, and that's vertical leadership, and they're good. Some people like horizontal leadership, where the idea is how do you cut through from left to right, from an idea all the way to selling it, cut through those silos and make things work well. And now we think that really top leaders are those who can do both. They are great at working up and down, getting their objectives met, and motivating people. They're also great at slicing through from one end to the other. Any change project is going to slice through several silos, so you can't make a change in one without making those in others. One of the things I ran into a situation at P&G where I was trying to move from one department, my own, through another to another, and I ran into a really top-notch person. He was older, and he said, "Boy, if Bruce Strain were here now, you wouldn't get away with this." And he was very offended that we were trying to work through, and maybe he'd have to do a little compromising and helping rather than solely focus on his own objective. But we worked hard, and you have to work your way through and use your leadership skills and your personal skills to work through this. And the process can help. Here's a Battleneck example. And this is, I've told you this one before, but this is a situation at Frito-Lay that really happened. Manufacturing had a new idea that would save 30 million bucks, and what it would do is, instead of employees having to take 36 bags off the line and put it into a box up and down, there was a new possibility of freeing them up and automatically putting them into the case pack, but they'd have to go sideways and lay them flat. So the bags would have to be flat. And the team had been on the job for about a year and getting nowhere. The salespeople said, yeah, that's okay, but it would ruin our objectives. It would slow things down because the grocer has to open up the box, count the 36, and if they're flat, won't see it. So the way this worked out was the group was able to use the process with some facilitation to say, look, those are two key facts. How do we change this into a challenge, starting with how might we? And it was how might we lay the bags flat, yet still let the grocer quickly know how many bags are inside the carton. Now that's a challenge that both groups could say, yeah, if we could do that, that'd be great. So it's including everybody, and it's a creative problem definition that gets out of the muck. And the group was able to think of several ideas quickly how we could accomplish this. And the statement I always use just for fun is, could a nation who put a man on the moon figure out how to lay the bags flat yet still let the grocer know how many's inside? So this is a great way to get around bottlenecks, is where you work together to redefine the problem in such a way that you can get by. Now, bottlenecks are different. Bottlenecks are not so much people, they're points or activities in the system or the process flow. And they will cause inefficiencies because one bottleneck can kind of mess up a lot of other parts of the process that are not bottlenecks. Now, Wikipedia gives three definitions. In engineering, it's where the capacity of an entire system is limited by one single or small number of components on the way in the process. Production is where we have one part of the overall process that is a bottleneck. Say it's only got a capacity of 3 units per hour, where all the other ones have got like 12, 15, 20. It doesn't matter. The units, the capacity of the whole thing is still only 3, the one that is the bottleneck. In software, it will be a component that severely affects application performance. And it doesn't matter how good the other parts are until you get that one done. You've got ineffective performance. Now, here's an example of a bottleneck. This is a large hospital, and the hospital radiation therapy unit was under pressure. The wait times were too high, and what they did was they said, look, we'll fix this, and they purchased 2 more expensive radiation machines and found out the patient throughput was exactly the same before. They didn't have any more room than they thought they'd have. And now the dilemma was, what do we do now? And of course, it's like, once you've jumped, let's get back and be innovative and try the innovation process. So this happens a lot. People throw away money and they expect technology to solve everything. Technology is great, but it's just a tool. And if you're not thinking well, you're going to mess things up. And people jump from 1 to 8 backwards without thinking, and then they are forced to say, oh gosh, what do we do now? Now the thing becomes, let's use the process. We didn't do it the first time, let's do it this time. And we try to go 1 through 8, and we start all over again with the problem, the fuzzy situation. We go and do fact-finding. We go into the system, what's going on, trace the patient going through the various steps, and we see all the facts that we can accumulate from everybody, involve everybody. And what happened in this situation, we discovered there were some real bottlenecks in the therapy planning process. And those bottlenecks, once we were confirmed that those were the bottlenecks, we turned them into how might we challenges. And then we turned our imagination, our creativity to develop solutions. And we developed several and reduced the radiation planning process by 34%. And people having to wait 10 or 11 days, we're now only waiting 6 or 7 days. And this was a major improvement to what was happening in that hospital and saved a lot of money as well. Now at the another one that is a hospital one, we had bottlenecks at the endoscopy center at McMaster Hospital. And the endoscopy seat was backed up. That was the problem. People are waiting. They're waiting, and this is not so good. Now, what is done in using this process, we do a project flow. We follow a patient all the way through, several patients, and we try to see what goes from step to step to step. And we create a program map, and we see a bunch of challenges in the flow from here to the blood work, over to here to discharge. And we get the group is involved, everybody's involved, all the way from booking clerks all the way to physicians, everybody in between. And we start looking at where the bottlenecks might be. And we start stating those bottlenecks as how might we. How might we get the blood work to go faster? How might we make sure no one has to wait any more than half an hour in the chemo chair? Then we confirm. We go back and we say, if those are really the bottlenecks, let's make sure and check. And many times we find out that it is, but we say, no, it should be stated a little bit differently. And so now we have maybe 4 or 5 key bottlenecks. We then form sub-teams who start solving these problems. And they recommend solutions and milestones, and final solutions are given to the steering committee. Now, the implementation is given to a brand new set of people. Also, they're not totally brand new, but we start working on getting things implemented, action planning, assessment of results, and we run into some problems, and those become roadblock working sessions. So if something should be working but isn't, let's put a team together and get everybody together, and let's start saying what's happening, what's stopping us, and use the process to go ram through the roadblocks. But we don't go away until implementation occurs. Now, in this situation, people are waiting in the endoscopy suite, and there's a need to increase the capacity of the endoscopy. In other words, increase the amount of throughput we can put. And there's not enough beds for exiting patients in the recovering room afterwards. Well, they were stuck with some untenable solutions. How might we get more endoscopy suites? How might we get more recovery room beds? How about we increase the size of the recovery room? Well, that's not going to happen. There's no more money. There's no more people. And these are simple things, but they're not going to work out. We need to use our creativity. We redefine these challenges. How might we move a waiting patient more quickly into the endoscopy suite? We found out that sometimes the suite often was empty and people were waiting. How might we reduce the time between a room that's just been cleaned and the next person entering? We found there was time was missing, and nurses and doctors might go and do some other work while they're waiting to come back. How about we keep the doctors and nurses close to the endoscopy suite at all times? How do we keep them from wandering off thinking they need to do other work? How might we reduce the time a patient needs to wait in the recovery room before being released? And how might we take vital sounds more frequently and flexibly in the recovery room? At the time, there was a time when everybody would be released at the same time by protocol. And vital signs were taken at a certain time. Well, why not take the vital signs as they come? Patients come along. And that way people could be released as they went. Very simple solutions, and there was a great deal of improvement. A 33% increase in throughput with no additional capital and no operating costs. No operating costs. This could have been about $500,000 that was required, and at least 3 more people to do what we needed to do, and people were happier. Now, sometimes bottlenecks masquerade as battlenecks. They get people upset. This is when one individual or group thinks that there's a problem over there, and it's the people that we depend on that are giving us a hard time. So we're pretty good at identifying bottlenecks, but sometimes not so good as correctly defining the problem. We guess, we rely on untested assumptions, and we don't do enough fact-finding to really find out what's going on. And we end up with attitudes and beliefs along the line of, well, they don't really care, they don't want to change, they just don't get it. And this is hard on people and makes working not so much fun. Well, in this situation, here's what happened. Chemotherapy treatments in a cancer center was the setting, and the groups were chemotherapy team, within it the blood collection group within it, and the blood lab. The bottleneck was this. The chemo team was trying to reduce patient wait times because of the long delay in getting vital results back from the blood lab. The very first part of their job was to take blood, send it to the blood lab, and receive it so they could get the patient on their way. Now, they used a pneumatic tube delivery system. The chemo team sent us up to the blood collection group and by the blood collection group up to the blood lab. Now, the chemo team said, these guys are made of bottleneck. The blood lab guys take forever to return the results to us, and we need to get the patients into treatment. Blood lab says, hey, wait a minute, we think we're pretty good. we get the blood lab tests out to everybody, all the hospital areas, as fast as we can, and we do that very efficiently. So this was a long-standing issue. Well, the original problem definition from the chemo team standpoint was how might we get the test results back faster from the blood lab so we could get going in our process for our patients. Their solution was, well, if we could get about $500,000 and maybe 3 more staff members, we could locate a new blood lab right in our chemo suite and not have to wait. Well, here we did fact finding. Now, the following facts came up. For chemo, the blood lab is efficient, we find, until 10 o'clock. And then it's a long time before we get any more results from them. The blood lab. The chemotherapy team stopped sending us blood to us around 10 o'clock. Isn't that interesting? The blood collection group. We run out of tubes to send up the pneumatic cycle around 10 o'clock. And then we have to wait until the blood lab delivers them back to us. The blood lab says we get tubes from many groups in the hospital, and we don't know which ones belong to chemo. Around noon, we're ready to quickly start delivering tubes to all areas of the hospital, and we know which ones take how much and how much on this based on our percentage data. The chemo team's final problem definition. How might we get the blood lab to return the tubes we need in the chemo suite in a timely manner and not wait? The solution was to put blue dots on their tubes, the chemo tubes, and the blood lab, knowing that they were needed right away, would return them right away, waiting until they spread them all over. And they put blue dots, and that was such a simple solution, and they got their, the chemo team was on target, able to get them quickly, and the blood lab was able to maintain their feeling of we do a good job. That was a saving of $500,000 and 3 people by just using the process, which depends so much on fact-finding and problem redefinition. What do all these have in common? Change falters, things don't get done well, solutions are not implemented, and people don't feel so good. And new ideas end up on the shelf. So what's the point? Implementing is tough. You can't back away and say, well, it was a great idea, and unfortunately, they won't let me do it, or I can't get the money for it. Part of your ability to be creative is I'm figuring out ways to get it through the system, and it requires creative problem solving involving all the people. Making plans to do it and actually doing it are 2 totally different things. And it's difficult for new ideas, and it's not that hard for routine procedures. People know them, they're not requiring changes, and you fix them. It's much harder. And we all remember Edison. He said 1% was inspiration and 99% persuasion. He said, there were so many times I ached to give the whole thing up. I had the thing going, but it was going to take years to figure out how to make it work. And many ideas fail that have to do with people. As individuals, we don't consider the impact on others. This is key. Anytime we're going to make a change, it's going to impact people. And people get nervous when things are fine and all of a sudden I'm being asked to put down $10,000 on the line, or I'm supposed to support you with this new idea. I'm a little nervous. And also, we're taught to look for flaws. High school, true, false, multiple choice, always find the flaw, and you're going to get pushback. And we don't take the steps we need to reduce uncertainty that we've created with this new idea. And if we'd involve people earlier in the process, we might be able to reduce that uncertainty. So let's look at this. Creativity is critical to gaining acceptance. And we can't just we can't forget that. We need to use our creativity in this quadrant. And we call it the wheel within a wheel. Sometimes, if we're working in step 7, we may have to go around the whole wheel to figure out how to gain acceptance. And a key is always thinking about how is this my idea going to help the other people, the people we're trying to help, our customers, internally, externally. So here's a thought. Rather than wing it, this is a key thing. Take the time. We should take the time to say, how am I going to gain acceptance for this idea? Let me use my creativity. And we have a simple form that we encourage people to use to doodle on. What's the solution? Who am I selling to? Am I selling it to the right person? Am I selling it to the boss or somebody further down? Let's make sure this person can really be a decision maker. Now, let's think about that person, him or her. Hopefully, my solution is going to help them with their problems. And if that's not the case, I've got a little problem on getting their attention. So what problems do they have? Are they trying to reduce costs? Are they trying to commercialize more new products? How will my solution help them with problems they have? Now, on my particular idea, what do I really want them to do? I would like them to, I'd like that listener to give me the okay to take the first step. For example, I'd like this person to take an easy next step and get the ball started. Okay, then why might it be done? Let me list a few benefits, not to me, but the benefits to the listener. It doesn't matter, it's going to make me happier. What matters is it's going to do the organization some good and make this person a better manager. Then maybe I better gather some evidence. How do I get this person to understand how each benefit would be understood? And then make a list of, let's do some problem finding. What concerns might the listener have? What pushback might this person come up with? And then be ready with how to overcome the concerns. If he says, well, do you think the accounts are going to go for this? You might talk to them and say, you know, I talked to 3 of them and they all think it's a pretty good idea not to worry so much. So anyway, you got a plan. You're making an acceptance plan. Now, some little tips. Try to give others some control. Be sensitive to the people aspects, okay? You don't want them to be nervous. Give them some feeling of control. As much as possible, spread ownership of your idea far and wide. You might want to get credit, but give other people credit, and it's going to help you in the long run be a good manager, good professional. Who else might I credit? At every opportunity, credit other people so they can be on board and supporting the idea and feeling good and coming back to help you in the future. Hey, if we've used the concept already, maybe it wasn't exactly the same. Wouldn't that be nice where I could say to the listener, you know, we already tried that a few years ago and we got some good results. It's not that different. How can I leave something out really obvious for the listener to input, change, or improve, and let them feel like, you know, I made a contribution, I'm part of this, and I was right. It wasn't perfect, but I was able to help out. Involving other people in how do we implement. Now that we're going to go with it, let's make sure we're going to get this implemented and involve as many people as you can so it becomes their situation now. We want to get this thing implemented, this problem, this solution. If possible, make it easy for people to say yes. If possible, give them a choice of 2 yeses. Would you like me to take that first step on Friday of this week or Thursday of next week? And it's a choice to be made, but they're both yeses. Now, time management. In time management, we often say, do it now, do it now. But this not may be the case. It's a situation says, listen, I don't want to go in and present this idea at 10 to 5 on Friday afternoon on a long holiday weekend or at 9 o'clock in the morning on Monday. But so think about when's the right time to present it that feels good, that it's going to be listened to at the right time. If you're not enthusiastic, nobody will be. So don't overboard it, but you got to be pretty happy with this idea and personally committed. And it's really not a bad idea to say, you know, I got a few concerns myself and get other people to chime in with, well, this might work or that might work and help mitigate your misgivings. Ask people as much as possible to do, not just listen, but to do. Get them involved. Take a look at this. Try this one out. Feel this. Take a crack at guessing how this might work. Visual aids are great. We have great technology these days, and it's so nice to be able to show things very professionally put together and make it look like you've really thought your way through. And then not just sight, but all the other senses: touching, feeling, touch the thing, try it out, hear something, bring somebody in to talk about it, and show people that you value them. Ask for their opinions, and not only just listen to it, but put them in. Show that you truly value them, their expertise, their knowledge. Now, wouldn't it be nice if we didn't have to do all this? How do you avoid step 7 entirely? Never have to sell my ideas to others. Almost all of us know this, but it's great to bring it back. Include them in the problem-solving process right at the beginning. Start with fact-finding. Don't tell people, we have a new idea we're going to implement. Look at the bulletin board at 3 o'clock on Friday afternoon. What that's going to do is everybody's going to resist that. Where'd that thing come from? I was never asked. You get people involved early, you're not only going to get buy-in, but you're going to get better solutions. They have facts you never thought of, and you're going to build their ownership and commitment to implement them. Wherever possible, get them involved early. This requires some vulnerability from leaders. It's almost saying, like, I don't know everything, and I could get help from other people. Wow, but there's nothing better you could do as a leader, because you're getting people involved and making sure things happen, and you're getting people engaged by doing this very simple blueprint. Well, sometimes it's hard, and people don't have to be sold, but it's still hard to do. And here's where we have to do really good creative problem solving. This is one I told you about before. Once upon a time where it was cube utilization, and the team was trying to figure out how to fill up the trucks better than they were doing, and they had a way, but they were worried about chips might break more with the new method of loading the trucks, and they were worried about optimal chip breakage, and they were going around and around in circle. And finally, we ended up with the real fact was we were afraid of making the recommendation without being totally sure there's no more breakage and totally sure we don't know the optimal chip breakage. And they were stuck with fear. And as you may recall, we wrote the recommendation in such a way that said, how do we get management to understand the difficulty, the risk, assure them we think it's worth it, and get them to take the risk with us. So fear is really a real bottleneck. One time we had legal say, we had a team trying to drive their ideas on a brand, and they were worried that the ideas wouldn't get to the television commercials because of legal stopping them. So they were thinking, how do we get around legal? Well, we just said, why don't we bring legal in, and they could help you get around them. And that's what they did. So rather than it being a stopper, bring these folks in, and they will help you get your new advertising on the market much faster. Another one was, I wonder what Randy wants. This team has been working on a project Randy gave him. He's the product development manager for 3 months, and now they're not sure what in the world he really asked them for. They're going around in circles. Now, I look out they asked me to sit in. So I look out the door, and there is Randy about 50 feet down in his office. The door's open. Why wouldn't anybody go down and just ask Randy, what did you want? We're not sure. Well, people don't want to do that after 3 months. He's going to say, what were you doing for 3 months? But if they were wise, and we help them do this, go down to Randy and say, you know, we were looking at it this way, we're looking at that way, we're not really sure that your way of looking at it was the right way. Maybe redefine the problem. And Randy might say, you know, your way of looking at it is pretty good. I'm glad you spent those 3 months figuring out what it is I really should have asked you for. But the being afraid to admit is a big, big bottleneck, and there are ways to overcome that if we use the process. Now, leadership in the 21st century. This was a CEO roundtable that you might remember, and if you haven't, what was asked of these top CEOs was this, and the answer was driving change and developing new leaders who can engage others in driving change. That was the big one. And then when they were asked, how do you drive change? There were several components. Make sure you know what you're trying to change. Get your best people on it. Don't delegate it. You need a process, like our 8-step process, Simplexity. You got to measure it, and here was the big one. There's got to be consequences. This is bottlenecks again. If you've got people in the way, oh, this too shall pass. We've done this before, and it never works. And other things like that, where they're going to be resisting, you have to move them out of the way. There's no two ways about it. Be nice about it. Give them another job. In Japan, they told me one technique they've got is make him the vice president of the operations in small island near Okinawa. He's out of the way, he's happy and save face, but you have to do it. And finally, excuse me, work together, how to do it best. And don't forget, it takes time. It's going to take a long time to really make permanent change work, but be willing to make the effort. So overcoming bottlenecks and battlenecks is a huge part of driving change. And we need creative problem solving and gaining acceptance. Use the whole process. Use it thoroughly. Get the facts. And don't be surprised you're running into difficulties requiring your creativity in step 7. So the wheel can work in any step, but this is a key one here in step 7. So, Bob, I think we may be on time, and I was thinking, boy, we could have written down a lot of biggest learnings for today. But as we talked, the bottom line is implementation is hard work, and it requires creativity. And if I move back to the previous slide, that hard work is facilitated by having a nice process used where it's bulletproof. I got a problem, that's my first step. I can do fact finding, I know what to do. I can go to problem definition, define it in a brand new way. I can get ideas, I can get a plan, and if I've involved people with me, especially the people who are being affected, I've got a blueprint for getting through this, and it's like having a bulletproof vest. So it's hard work, it requires creativity, but you do have a process by which you can make it work. So Bob, I think maybe I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay.
I worked hard to get it done on time. Yeah. And so I'll leave it to you. And do you want me to flip on the next slide, or do you want to
talk? I'm going to go to the next slide before I go to questions, just to get people up.
Okay.
You know, we have this slide up every time, and really what's different is that what we're going with our webinars. But feel free to give us a call anytime. There's our number, 905-690-4903. We'd love to hear from people. Our next certification workshop is scheduled in October. We don't typically run these in the summer. We do have a level 3 coming up in July. It seems that people are more attracted to come to Canada or Toronto area in the summer than they are in the winter. So we try to do these in the fall or the spring, and the odd one in the summer. Our next webinar, we're quite busy this summer, but our next webinar, and I think it's one people don't want to miss. It's scheduled September 22nd. We're actually moving into the next phase, which is what we're calling an advanced topic area. We're going to look at how we apply complexity thinking to a variety of different challenges. The first one, and the one we're doing a lot of work on these days, is strategic planning. So we're calling this one, make sure your strategic plan stays off the shelf. And it starts by asking the right questions and keeping it simple. So you'll be getting an invite for that. Really encourage people to watch this one, because we feel with complexity thinking, it's one of the best strategic planning tools and techniques out there. So encourage you to tune in. Any other questions or inquiries, there's my email, bob@basser.com, or you can email Min directly at min@basser.com. So I'm going to open it up for questions. We've got a few questions that have come so far, and hoping we'll get a few more. First question we have is, how do you determine whether a bottleneck or battleneck requires you to go back to redefine the problem or assumptions?
Let's see. I think one of the ways, this is a really good question. The name is always. Always. What do I mean by that? We used to, well, we still do. We teach. We get people to learn how to teach complexity thinking, and how do you actually involve people, and how do you actually teach it to people? And we get people in, and we say, look, we know that you're trying to teach this process, which is a very important process, and that's what you're going to try to learn. And so we're going to give you modules to teach. You got to teach mapping, or you got to teach this, and you got to teach that. What we want your group to do is figure out how to teach it in about 3 hours, and the only stipulation we have is that you got to use the process. And we give them a big manual with all the information in there, and we say we got coaches here to help you, but don't forget you got to use the process, and your job is to put together a teaching outline by noon. But you got to use the process. Well, the first thing you hear is, well, I don't think we need the process for this. We just look in the book and we divide it up and off we go. And after agony of 3 hours, the team's not ready. 3 hours later, they're still not ready. And they work late and not so good. We shoved them around in different groups the next day. Same thing. I don't think we need the process for this. Okay, so automatically, we're trying to decide what you need the process for or not. What we're trying to get people to do is you always use the process. Your safest thing to say, he asked me to do this. Maybe I'll get a few facts and see if that's really what he wants, and we redefine the problem. By Wednesday, people are taking new facts in. Why were the last 2 days so agonistic, if that's a word? Well, it's because we didn't use the process. We started to jump right in and start teaching by reading the book and dividing up. So the question is, you've got a bulletproof shield. You're always lucky and available to say, you know what? I got a fuzzy situation. It's not what I think. I'm not going to buy a bunch of machines. Let me do a bit of fact finding. And whether it's a bottleneck where you can find the bottlenecks, or whether it's a Battleneck where you can start finding out what's going on, you're always safe to spend some time. Maybe it doesn't take a long time, but you save some time by saying, whoa, let me get the problem defined, no matter how concrete it looks, before I go ahead. I hope that helps.
Oh, good. That's good. Here's we got a few more coming in here, so we'll try to keep maybe the answers a little shorter. But how do you move around bottlenecks who can't or won't describe what they see as the problem? Difficult to find a solution to no or just no, and then they do a lot of talking behind your back. How do you deal with sort of the naysayers that really won't tell you why they're saying no?
What's bothering them?
Yeah.
What's really bothering them? Right? Yeah. Well, one of the things I think is always in this process is, no matter what you're doing, you're trying to help somebody else. You're trying to help the next door neighbor, the silo, whatever. And the trick is always, I'm trying to get something done for somebody else. I'm trying to help them, and I'm trying to help the organization. And in this case, when you have this going on, one of the things you could be thinking about is, how might I help this person find out why he may be such a stick in the mud, I'm not getting it out of him. And the possibility might be to work with this person on something that sounds like a little different, but start asking questions. Now, that might be hard. Another way is to start up a problem-solving session which would involve this person, not as the client or the owner, but somebody who helps. But it's a problem that is akin to the one that you're working on, but not directly, and see if in the fact-finding stage and the problem-finding stage that might turn up. Another one might be to find a problem that he's working on, which is different, or she's working on, and make them the client for another problem, an alternate problem, where the fact-finding starts turning up some stuff that is similar to what his problem is.
Good.
And finally, I have one more. It's make yourself the client on the problem, have somebody else facilitate for you, invite this person as one of the people that might be able to help you, and when the fact-finding starts, some of his stuff may start coming out.
Good.
Sorry if it's taking a long time,
No,
Bob.
it's okay. It's okay. We got another good one here. How do you suggest trying to implement change with higher ups? Are there any special considerations when you're trying to make change as a quote unquote a low man?
Totally. Yeah, there's got to be a business need. Nothing is going to happen unless there's a genuine business need that the upper ups can say, yep, that's an important one for me, and everything you're going to be doing is you show them how this is going to achieve their business need. The strategy for innovation is 3 circles. One is the business need. There's got to be an important business need by the top people. There's got to be the process, which you've got, by which people can attack the business need. And the third one is there's got to be an infrastructure that's set up by the top people where we've got the time to work on that big business need. So if you don't have, you can't push a noodle up the hill. You can't say, I got this great process, I'm pushing it up. You've got to work with them to discover there's a strategic business need that's important to them organizationally, and then show that the process is going to help them get there. Now, you may have to work your way up there bit by bit by higher and higher ups, But we found through through a lot of experience that it's got to start with people who see a genuine business need and want. We ran into this recently, Bob, where I won't say the name, but an energy company where things are going well, all the people are saying all the right things, but when it comes time to it, nobody at the top is doing anything but just increasing prices, having a good time. But the language sounds good. But in this organization, if the lower people level don't show the upper people why it's going to be good for them to start doing this, rattle the cage a little bit, it's just not going to happen. And but I think you can use your ingenuity to find that somehow.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of that is people at the higher level sometimes really admitting that, you know, change needs to be made, and because it will affect them, and they don't want to do anything different than they've always been doing because um, it works for them. Anyway, another good question here. How do we engage bottlenecks and bottlenecks in a government where innovation and efficiency are not CEO driven? So this is sort of the concept around, you know, the social effects, and where government is much more sort of a mandate of the people. So we deal with a lot of government organizations. So, you know, I think there's the CEO in some case, like we were with the town of Pelham, where we're dealing with the mayor. There's a lot of stuff that is driven from that office. So anyway, that's a
Yeah,
question that you might want to elaborate on a little bit.
yeah. Well, we we distinguish between ambitious leaders and ordinary leaders or operational leaders. It all boils down to leadership. Uh, if an organization is going to be good, it's going to depend on one thing: a leader who's an ambitious leader. He wants or she wants to make change, and they're responsible for the change. They want it to happen, and you can have that happening in government. You can have that happening in city councils. You can have that happening in organizations. You're lucky when you've got that kind of a person who is an ambitious leader. And so I don't think it's that different. Like you can have, like we're having right now, a new edict coming from a major bank, a major bank helping countries, and they've decided to make innovation this time from the top down, start making innovation as our mantra. This is what we're going to be doing. Well, somebody at the top has taken that and said, we want to do innovation. And then they would come to people like us who would say, well, how can we help you do innovation? And it's going to happen because they would want it. The town of Pelham wants to be the best small city in the country or the world. Well, they got a mayor and a administrative officer and a team at the top, financial leaders, who said we want to do it, and we're going to have to make change, and we're going to start making change so we can be the best. So it really does depend on who you're getting, who wants it. The CEO in a hospital who says, I want to have the best hospital in our country, and we're going to have the best performance there are, and now it starts. So getting to those kinds of folks, and if you're one of those folks, is, boy, have you got an opportunity here to distinguish yourself. Also, if you're one of 10,000 people in a big company and you're the same as everybody else, the 10,000 people, there's only one way that you can start distinguishing yourself, only one way, and that is you're not going to do the routine job that everybody else is doing at the same time, hoping somebody picks you. You're going to say, how might I stand out from all the rest? And you start not doing what your job says only to do. You start saying, how might I help my key customers? My key customers in my organization, my boss. How might I help my customers outside? And you take the initiative to start making change by helping people solve problems who are important to you. So the big deal becomes, what problems are people having that I could help them with? And now you're becoming an ambitious leader, no matter what your level in the organization. I don't know if that answers it or not, but that's really the way we see things.
Oh, that's good. How do you determine if you're at a bottleneck rather than working against a culture that you can't change? In other words, are
Uh,
you at a local level or at a higher level? Is the higher level causing the bottlenecks in general, or is it something?
Again, one of the, when in doubt, this is it. When in doubt, start fact finding. You cannot go wrong by fact finding. So it's such a wonderful little step, and it just turns up all kinds of stuff where you start involving people, learning things that you didn't know, and it doesn't cause you any trouble. Nobody's going to get mad at you from asking questions. And all of a sudden, you start asking enough, you start building up some momentum, and new directions start popping out, which we call how might we's. And so, if this is a great thing to do if you're looking for a new career direction, not sure where to go, realize that you're in the fuzzy situation and start asking questions of people, and they will send you to other people to ask questions. So when in doubt, at any time, if you're not sure what to do, go right into fact finding. It's your bulletproof shield, and you never know what the future is going to hold up, and whether it's one of the three, a bottleneck masking as a bottleneck, or bottleneck, this will start showing up, and you might have a combination of them, but start doing it and taking your time to get it done. And like Einstein said, 55 minutes to define the problem, 5 to solve it.
Okay, we got one more, and this one's kind of near and dear to us, but this person writes, before the 2008 economic collapse, it was easy to get a client to write a check. Now we'll make the pitch, explain how great simplicity is and how specifically it would help with their challenges. And even if they acknowledge simplexity's value, they don't write the check and hire us. Classic bottleneck, I suspect. Any suggestions on how to get them to engage in the process and write that check? I think in some cases we'd like to be more successful at this, but I think we can chat a little bit about how do you get people engaged in terms of in the process.
Yeah, I think the big thing that's happened in 2008 is many companies have fallen off the wagon. They've fallen off the face of the earth. No longer is the fax machine coming in with orders from the car companies. We got 6 of them. Now there's only 2 of us. I think what has to happen is how do we differentiate ourselves from others? And if ever there was a need for innovation, it is now. In the old days, yeah, we do some training, that's fine, but nothing changes. Things have to change now. And how might we distinguish ourselves from others? And that's where innovation starts. So I think you have to be able to don't use the old sales approach. Let's do some training. The sales approach is this is a matter of life and death. People are being gobbled up. They're running out of business, and things are moving so darn fast that if we don't take advantage of the change we're seeing and find ways to be different from other people, find new businesses to go to, we may collapse. So this is a different proposition. This is how do we be more innovative and differentiate ourselves from other people? How do we find new customers, not the old customers? And that's where the strategic planning comes in as well. When you start getting somebody interested in that, and now you're talking and you're saying, okay, let's do some creative problem solving involving your top people and figure out what might we do next to stay ahead of the game. And remember, adaptability, flexibility, and efficiency. The name of the game once upon a time was efficiency. How do we cut, and be as efficient as all heck? Today, the name of the game is adaptability. We got to drive change, and we've got to, like I said before, we got to keep making change happen. And this person, if he's going to be an ambitious leader, he's got to see himself as a driver of change. So I hope that helps a bit, but that's where the creativity comes in. Find something that is new, that this guy needs now, or this board needs right now they didn't need before.
Yeah, I was going to add to that. It seems like our business, our phone rings more, our emails get a lot busier when times are a little bit tough or really uncertain. And when things are clicking along really, really well, I would say we're not as busy, but we're seeing a lot of people that are knocking on our doors, especially from government and other boards and directors and people that are really looking at business through a strategic lens. It's pretty exciting to see some of that stuff happening, and we definitely see like within Ontario, the province of Ontario, doing a lot of work around innovation. We're seeing other municipalities and cities. The city of Austin, Texas, we have a bunch of people tuning in today from Austin. Really excited to see what you're doing. You have a chief innovation officer who's really jumped on the bandwagon around, the whole design thinking and how you think differently. So we're excited about
Well,
that.
Also, there's the ERM, emergency response management.
Yeah.
Now that the world is so volatile, we're getting local energy companies and cities saying, how do we get everybody involved in looking for things that might happen that we have no chance of knowing the volatility and putting in plans to handle that. So a lot of things are happening now because of the extreme change that's happening, and good organizations are seeing the need to be ready for future happenings. And this is a real, yeah, we are busier than ever before. And when things are going good, people don't need us. When things are not going so hot, in times that are uncertain, that's when we see more questions.
All right. Well, that gets us to 1 o'clock. So I want to thank everybody again for tuning in. A reminder that everybody who attended today, you'll be getting a link to as we record every one of these webinars, and you will also be getting a PDF version of all the slides. So don't you don't need to email me. You don't need to worry about that. That'll be coming probably by sometime tomorrow, Thursday at the latest. So thank you again, Ben. Great job as usual. Look forward to getting most of you back and hopefully a lot more in September. So until then, enjoy your summer and have a great day. And thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for everybody for taking the time.